clamp loosened. He fell from approximately 10 meters high and tumbled down the rocks. And then, an estimated 1,000 feet below the ground, they had to make an impossible choice. August 1952. A French caver named Marcel Loubens was ascending after being trapped underground for 4 days. The electric winch was newly introduced. It was probably faulty. And in 10 seconds, everything went catastrophically wrong. What happened next became one of the most famous cave disasters in history. Because sometimes equipment can fail, sometimes rescue can become impossible, and sometimes the only choice left is between burying someone underground or risking more lives to bring them home. Marcel Loubens was born in 1923 in the village of Mazères-sur-Salette in southern France. At 13, he became obsessed with caving. He sought out Norbert Casteret, France's most famous caver at the time, and wanted to learn how to explore caves from him. Casteret agreed, and by 1940, young Loubens began exploring the caves of the Arbus Massif. In 1940, at only 17 years old, Loubens explored the Henne Morte cave, which was France's deepest for a time. 3 years later, during an exploration of Henne Morte with Casteret, a massive rock fell during a rescue attempt. Loubens was injured, surviving with broken ribs and a shattered shoulder. It took 13 hours to bring him to the surface. These were the years of Nazi occupation. Scientific exploration took a back seat to survival. But Loubens's knowledge of mountain caves served a different purpose. He became a passeur, a smuggler, smuggling people across the border between France and Spain. He joined the French resistance, using caves as hiding places and escape routes. After liberation, he returned to caving. In 1951, together with geologist Harun Tazieff, he descended into Gouffre de la Pierre-Saint-Martin, a massive chasm discovered the previous year on the French-Spanish border. They reached an estimated 505 meters, more than 1,600 feet below the surface. By that time, Loubens was 29 years old, married, and had a son. He operated a small paper and plastics factory. But his love of caving continued. In 1952, Belgian physicist Max Cossens organized a major expedition to Pierre-Saint-Martin. The team included Loubens, Casteret, Tazieff, filmmaker Jacques Ertaud, and several other experienced cavers. Their goal was to go even deeper than the estimated 505-meter chamber Loubens had reached the year before. On previous expeditions, they'd used a manual winch operated by pedaling, an exhausting system that limited how much equipment they could bring underground. For 1952, Cossens ordered an electric winch from a Belgian factory. The electric winch was newly introduced and hadn't been extensively field-tested in such demanding conditions. It would allow them to descend directly into the entrance shaft of approximately 320 meters using a steel cable. The winch proved problematic from the start. It malfunctioned repeatedly. Small problems, constant adjustments. But it kept working. Barely. The exploration team left the village of Saint-Angras and walked to the cave entrance at 1,750 meters elevation. The Spanish Civil Guard met them there. The cave sat on disputed territory, and both countries claimed jurisdiction. On August 13th, after 96 hours underground, Loubens decided to ascend. He'd been the first to descend and was exhausted. At 9 a.m., while Tazieff and Jacques Laberry pulled his exit, Loubens attached himself to the winch cable and was pulled to the top of the debris pile at the base of the main shaft. Before beginning the vertical ascent, the winch pulley became misaligned. Loubens had to detach while repairs were made. At 10 a.m., he reattached the cable and was lifted approximately 10 meters from the ground. He requested a pause for the pull via radio through the telephone line. He tried to light the magnesium flares Tazieff had given him, but the constant rain at that depth made it impossible. He waved to his friends below. then radioed for them to continue his ascent. The cable clamp gradually slipped due to insufficient tightening, vibration, and cold, finally loosening. According to technical analysis conducted after the accident, the failure resulted from a combination of multiple factors: insufficient tightening of the clamp, vibration from the winch operation, cold temperatures affecting the metal, and a missing safety pin. The cable slipped from the clamp. Loubens's parachute harness separated from the cable. He fell. Tazieff and Labeyrie watched him fall toward them. The fall itself was short, but when he hit the debris pile, he rolled and tumbled 30 meters down the rocky slope. Some contemporary newspaper reports claimed greater fall distances, but the most reliable accounts describe an initial 10-meter fall, followed by a devastating tumble down the debris field. When Tazieff and Labeyrie reached him, he was unconscious. He would never wake again. With Giuseppe Occhialini's help, they carried Loubens to a horizontal platform. They covered him with sleeping bags. He was barely breathing. The alarm went to the surface. Spanish authorities organized a rescue convoy. French gendarmes from Moléon established a communication center. The surface team worked for hours to repair the cable. Despite an oncoming storm, dozens of volunteers from nearby villages came to help. The army parachuted in supplies. Scouts from Lyon, who explored nearby caves, descended the shaft walls on ladders to help bring a stretcher. Meanwhile, Dr. Mary was lowered down, the cable now equipped with 3 clamps instead of 1. He reached the bottom approximately 24 hours after the accident. His medical assessment was dire. Loubens had multiple fractures. His condition was described as hopeless. Murray reduced an open elbow fracture to stabilize potential transport. On August 14th, around 10 p.m., as Loubens was being prepared for evacuation, immobilized on the stretcher and receiving a plasma transfusion, he uttered a single groan. Then he died. The team faced a decision. Attempting to extract a body in the unstable shaft using equipment that had already catastrophically failed would risk more lives. They decided to bury Loubens where he lay, 1,000 feet below the ground. After Occhialini and Labeyrie ascended, the next day Meret and Tazieff made another decision. They would continue the exploration Loubens had pursued, partly to honor him. They discovered a large chamber beyond the passage they'd returned from the day before the accident. They named the chamber after Loubens. The incident shook the major media tremendously. Reporter Georges Decones provided comprehensive coverage. The tragedy brought unprecedented attention to the relatively unknown science of caving. In July 1953, a new expedition returned to Pierre-Saint-Martin, this time with a winch designed by Corentin Kefelec, an engineer specializing in lifting equipment. Casteray, Loubens's close friend and France's most experienced caber, descended first, followed by Meret. Despite significant mobilization of resources, they determined it wasn't possible to safely recover Loubens's body. The expedition instead focused on exploration, reaching the massive Salle de la Verne and a record depth of 737 meters. In August 1954, 2 years after his death, another expedition was organized specifically to retrieve Loubens's remains. Not all team members agreed. Jacques Théodore refused to participate, citing Loubens' own stated wish that if he died underground, he should be left there. The Spanish Civil Guard again met the expedition, tasked with ensuring no exploration occurred beyond body recovery. The Spanish Catholic Church issued a canonical ban against the operation. On August 8th, Casteray descended first. The team brought an aluminum container manufactured by the technical school in Bagnères de Bigorre. On August 10th, Loubens's body was placed in the container at the base of the shaft. The cavers burned the remains of the original burial site. On August 14th, at 5:30 p.m., exactly 2 years after Loubens's death, the winch began pulling up the 150-kilogram container. The ascent was difficult, taking approximately 10 hours. At the exact anniversary moment of Loubens's death, Castoret stopped the operation for a minute of silence. The media coverage of the recovery further contributed to the popularization of speleology. The French state honored Marcel Loubens posthumously as a national example of courage and dedication to scientific exploration. The official tribute read, "Driven entirely by a selfless passion for speleology, he never ceased from his youth to dedicate to it the finest qualities of the spirit of exploration and courage." After numerous cave explorations and dangerous descents, in August 1952, with his brave companions, he undertook the particularly perilous exploration of the Pierre-Saint-Martin chasm and found there a glorious death in the service of science. A tombstone was inscribed at the site of the underground accident. Here, Marcel Loubens lived the last days of his life. The Gouffre de la Pierre-Saint-Martin tragedy raises questions that go beyond the technical failure of a cable clamp. It asks how much risk is acceptable in the pursuit of knowledge, whether bringing a body home justifies endangering more lives. The cable clamp failed due to multiple factors: insufficient tightening, cold, and missing safety mechanisms. Some of these were preventable problems, not inevitable equipment failure, but human decisions and oversights. Marcel Loubens now rests in the Mazères-sur-Salat cemetery. His name appears on streets, public buildings, and countless cave chambers. An endemic insect species in Laverna cave bears his name, Aphinops loubensi. A chasm in Italy bears his name. Gouffre de la Pierre-Saint-Martin is still there, still deep, still dangerous.